Greetings, students, and welcome again to The Professor Travel. I am your host, The Professor Travel, coming to you from Orange County, California. This is the website, the vlog, and the podcast that you go to in order to learn more about different countries and different places. This is where you go to discuss them as a community. Hopefully, this will inspire you to travel more and enjoy life more. Now, you can reach me at a variety of different social media sites, including, of course, my website, starting first and foremost at theprofessortravel.com. I can also be reached at YouTube and Facebook at The Professor Travel. I'm now available on TikTok. You can find me there at The Professor Travel. If you're an Instagrammer, you can find all my pictures on there at the_professor_travel. If you're on Twitter, please find me there at theprofessortr1. And of course, if you're a blogger, please find me on Blogspot at theprofessortravel.blogspot.com. Today, I am thrilled to bring back another visiting professor, third time coming to us, Nurah Fosu. Please say hello to everybody on those.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Return.
Oh, thank you so much for coming again. We really appreciate all of your wonderful insights. So thank you so much for that. Just for my viewers who and listeners, because of course people listen through the podcast as well,
Okay.
who have not heard the previous, either the previous Ghana or the previous Malaysia podcast or YouTube that we did previously. Can you maybe tell a little bit about your educational background and maybe some places that you've traveled before?
Okay, well, I have a bachelor's of science in human resources. I am currently in a master's program in public health with a focus in disease. And I have traveled many times around this wonderful globe, and I do have some future travels in store. But I've traveled to Malaysia, I've traveled to Ghana, I've traveled to Japan, Singapore, I've been to Europe, Hungary, Austria, and I feel like I'm missing one more in Europe. Oh, and Paris, of course.
Oh, of course.
and Italy. So I have, but I do have some more things in this Corona just kind of put some tracks on me because I was supposed to be out of the country right about now, but that's okay.
Yeah. And this is thrown out everybody's travel plan. So, I mean, for me, it was one of those things where in March, I actually did have a cruise that was paid for. We were going to go down to the Caribbean for the first time, see how the culture was down there. And no, but at least I got back all my money on that. So that was good.
Good. I got my money back too, but safety first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one thing I will stress, there's a lot of controversy right now about being able to get back into public and get the economy going versus safety. I tend to err on the side of safety. I want to make sure that, regardless of what's going on out there, just be safe, people. Be safe with your family, be safe with your friends, do what is right for you and your family, but please be safe. So.
That's right.
Now, for purposes of this vlog and podcast, we're discussing Singapore. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Awesome. So in thinking back to this trip that you had done, how long in advance did you start to plan to go to Singapore? And what was the occasion for you wanting to go to Singapore?
Well, my best friend's wedding. So, and I was supposed to go to Singapore when Obama got into office, but you guys know swine flu is going on. The swine flu happened, so I could not fly. So, but it was definitely for her wedding. And hey, Sue, she just had her second baby, so I want to give her.
Oh, congratulations, Sue!
I'm a god auntie, so I'm excited about that. But yeah, I had to plan for this one in advance, well in advance. Probably took me about 30 days to get everything together. My flights, it was not cheap. And so, yeah, about 30 days.
Okay. Now, and just for reference, in the previous podcast, we talked about Malaysia. I think that's where the wedding actually took place. Is that correct?
No, the wedding actually took place in Singapore, and the honeymoon was in
the honeymoon took place. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Yep, I went on honeymoon with them. That's how much best of it. And she was like, "No, I want you to go on our honeymoon." It was amazing. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. So it's a whole series of events that you're doing as part of this process. But for purposes of this, we're going to really focus on Singapore and what your time was like over there.
Yes.
So now in planning to go to both Singapore and Malaysia and this whole trip that was going on throughout this process,
Hmm.
do you have any visa requirements that were going on with this?
Actually, no, there's not a visa requirement to go to Singapore, which was surprising because I thought I would have needed one, but no.
Okay, cool. And I know with places, especially in either like when you go into Asia or when you go into Africa, and sometimes there are certain vaccines that are required or special travel medications that you need to get. Was anything like that required for Singapore at all?
It was not. No visas, nor was vaccinations required. It is encouraged
Okay.
to take, vaccinations, but, and I want to say, and I could be wrong, but I don't want to say because I don't want to be wrong. So I don't remember what it was, but
Okay.
I'm like, I was just happy I didn't have to get a shot. So I'm like, oh, if it's not required, then I'm not going to get it.
Okay.
But yeah, yeah. But they do kind of, I remember talking to my doctor about flying. So I always like to talk to my primary care physician and say, hey, I'm going to this country. Can you kind of give me some tips? And it was always about building your immune system and not drinking the local water and not eating the local like seafood type things, unless it was. So those are some of the things that I did take with me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I was going to actually ask you about things that you had to specially prepare for because, God willing, at the end of this year, I'm still on track to go to India, and in preparation for that, I was going
Oh,
to take maybe a week to change over some of my dietary and eating habits as part of this process in order to better adapt to the potential to be able to have things like street food and stuff like that over there.
yeah.
But if it's not possible, it's not possible. But
Mhm.
we'll see how the coronavirus treats us, and maybe hopefully we'll be able to get out of here pretty soon then.
I hope so. I'm already ready. I told hubby, I'm like, because we were supposed to go to Tanzania. So,
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Okay, so in preparation for this, now again, because you're going to be going to a couple of countries during this time frame,
Mhm.
what was the pre-packing for something like this like?
Like I said in my other videos, I keep it light. People still think I'm crazy about it, but I just kept it really light because I feel like, with my domestic travel, I travel a lot domestically anyway, and I know half the time I don't wear the things that I wear. So I just was like, okay, I gotta pack super light.
Mhm.
And I have one bag again, a carry-on. So I mean, some people need more things, but I just made sure I had my essentials.
Okay.
My body care products.
Mhm.
Clothes. I had something to change in for like nightlife. I had like the proper shoes, something that I can change. Depending on. I had two pairs of shoes and some sneakers or gym shoes, we call it here in Michigan. But yeah, that's how I packed. And I think I packed maybe the day before. I didn't pack,
Wow.
I always pack the day before or the day of. I'm gonna be honest.
That's- I usually when I'm packing for a vacation or a cruise, something I usually like for me, I usually put out the bag like a few days in advance. I'm like, okay, let's start to put a little bit of things in here, put a little bit more days as we continue going on. It's like I'm just kind of one of these like it's almost like a little squirrel, I'm like just taking those little nuts, and like whereas like my husband, if he had his way, he would like take a month in advance to pack. He,
What?
he packs for every occasion, so it's like
Yeah,
I'm much more like you are with like a
yeah,
mini packer, but I tend to get maybe get a little bit longer leeway on that. But
yeah,
like he would like if we were going to go on just a weekend tour, he would love to take like 5 bags. So I'm like, okay, look, that's excessive. So
yeah, yeah,
loving
yeah.
the pieces, and
Yes.
I appreciate because sometimes his packing habits have actually saved me
Oh,
from like, oh, I forgot to bring a belt, or oh, I forgot to bring something, and he's like, oh, guess what, I have this. Aren't you glad I did?
yes. But
Right.
I keep it here actually. So I am like him. I do mentally know I'm packing mentally. And I don't go against what I had stored here in my brain. So I'm gonna be honest with you, I do start packing mentally maybe months in advance.
Okay.
But when it's time to I think that's the reason why I'm able, people think like, oh my gosh, even my cousins, they kind of like, they always like, oh, go to Nurah because she like packed within like 2 minutes. But the reality is I've already packed in my head. So months or weeks in advance, and I don't deviate from that plan.
I was going to ask, maybe it's because you do a lot of traveling. Do you think that's why sometimes you already have like a pre-packing list ahead of time?
Yeah, I think so. Because I'm already aware. I'm like, oh, okay, I already know the climate. I already know the terrain. I already know what we're kind of gonna do, you know. So I'm like, I'm gonna need this, 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 and this. And so I already mentally start putting. But one thing I do, I just stick to my plan. I have to stick to my packing plan. Maybe other things in life I don't stick to, but I stick to my packing plan.
Now, as part of that, and thinking in terms of toiletries and stuff like that, did you need to bring sun protection, like SPF, or any type of bug repellent for Singapore?
I brought, I make my own bug repellent, but yes, definitely, mosquitoes is out, you know, but I do like this oil of cashew blend that I make. It's really good because the bugs don't like it. It doesn't stink, but it just have a think of like Melaleuca oil or tea tree oil. It comes from the Melaleuca family, and it's really strong to repel bugs, and it worked like a charm.
Does it smell like tea tree oil?
It kind of smells like it has its own like unique smell. I still don't know what it is yet. But it doesn't smell exactly like tea tree oil, but it puts you in the mindset of tea tree oil.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, but I use that. And I definitely use, you know, the sun was strong there. So I definitely knew to bring that because my girlfriend already kind of like let me know how strong the sun is. So even though I'm like, I have melanin in my skin, it still can burn, it still can get damaged from the level of exposure, because that tropical heat is not, it's not like Florida. It's like 10 times worse. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and you traveled out of Michigan. You traveled out of Detroit, correct?
I did. Detroit is the international airport. So I did travel out of Detroit. I actually parked my car at the airport, because I just wanted to be able to drive off. Sometime, you know, later in life, I started to do Uber, but they didn't have Uber during that time, but I probably would have Uber. But I definitely parked my car at the airport.
Okay, excellent. And in terms of your flight, now you went on Delta, is that correct?
I did.
Now, did you have some type of a frequent flyer program with them, or?
I do. I just, you know, one of the things I try to stick to an airline, unless I get a really good deal, then I'm not sticking to the airline. But yeah, because those frequent flyer miles, I think I was able, because of the amount of travel back and forth, I had enough after that flight for a flight and a half domestically, you know. So it was definitely worth it.
Okay, cool. Do you remember about the flight itself? Like, how were the meals, or were you in first class? Were you in business class? Were you in coach?
I was in business class, and the flight was 24 hours, you know, and that's a lot. And I don't know if I shared this before, but I have a clotting disorder, so I can't be crunched up in an economy seat for a long period of time. So at that time, well, I still have a friend that works for Delta. And so at that time, they still had flexibility where you could have like a friend, you can sell the ticket to a friend, a buddy pass, where the person doesn't have to ride with you. So I had a buddy pass, and I was able to save a significant amount of money on my flight. Business class was wonderful, and the food was amazing, and the champagne was delightful. I
find that when I travel and I'm sometimes going with a different airline than I'm normally used to, their policies are really liberal in terms of the alcohol. It's fantastic.
That's the first thing they give you. I'm like,
I had that with both Lufthansa, and I had where they literally would not stop filling up my drinks.
Yes.
Like they just came by and poured, and it was like, okay. But then also with New Zealand Airlines, I'm sorry, it was Air New Zealand. I apologize. And that one, I guess they are partially subsidized by the wine growers of New Zealand in a way. So you
Oh,
get free wine for the flight. So they're always trying to fill your drinks up. So it's like, oh, I'm not going to say
man.
no to a free glass of wine. Are you kidding me? Thank you.
No. That's how Swiss was. They give you that champagne and chocolate. I'd be like, oh, lovely. I'm like, it's like 6 o'clock in the morning. They're like, oh no, it's good, it's good. I'm like, okay.
Happy hour somewhere. So there we go. So now your flight was taking you from Detroit to Japan, where you had a brief delay, and then you went to Singapore before heading later on down the line to Malaysia.
Yes.
Correct?
Yep. Yep. And I didn't when I was in Japan, I did not stay anywhere but at the airport.
Okay.
Because even though it was not 24 hours, it was maybe like it was a 24-hour total flight, but I think I was there for maybe 8 of those hours.
Okay.
And it was kind of really cool to kind of like, you know, do my thing, take pictures and stuff, but I didn't really go like explore because the 8 hours is not really a long time.
Okay.
Had it been 12, I would have been all over the place. But I do plan to go back to Japan. It was just beautiful when I remember flying into the airport, their main airport, and it was just the lights and the architectural things around. It was just, I don't know, it was just really cool. It was just really, the fly in was cool. It was just so mesmerizing. Then you see mountains in the back, you know, it's just like, oh, this is what I saw on TV. And it's like super real. So it's so like nostalgic for me.
And for those of my students who would like to know more about Japan, I have a couple of videos on that too. So just check out my library that I have on the vlog section of my YouTube page there.
Yeah.
Now, you went from Japan after that over to Singapore. Talk to me about your first impressions of going into Singapore.
Oh, I got off first of all, the airport. I was like, this is a city. Like, it was beyond beautiful. They had trees. They had like 40-foot trees inside the airport. I swear to you. It's like, I don't know. It was so far modern. I know they call, you know, US the most modern. No, it's not. Singapore is. I mean, it was just so beautiful. And I thought birds were flying. And then you see families congregating like all around, you know, I'm thinking like, oh, they're meeting some people. No, like this place that's what happens. You go to the airport to hang out because it's so beautiful. It's like a city. It is huge. And I was not able to explore the entire place. And my girlfriend came to pick me up, her and her fiance at the time. And he's from Hungary. So he was working there in the financial district in Singapore. And so they came to pick me up. We go to the car and it's like this little buggy. And it's not a buggy, but the car was so small. I'm like, nah. Now, mind you, I was so bigger than what I am now. Okay, I was 200 and like
something
230 pounds. Okay, and I was like, well, where am I supposed to sit? The whole car could fit me. And then I'm glad I brought that one bag of luggage. But it was absolutely breathtaking. My first glance of, you know, the airport, and then I walked out. And then the weather hit me, and I wanted to go back into the airport.
Is it humid there?
Huh?
Is a little humid there?
Woo. Okay. They did not prepare me completely for the humid. That's one thing I would say. She told me it was hot, but she did not. I think she thought I understood what tropic heat was about, because I was like comparing it to Florida, and she was saying, yeah, but she should have said Florida times 8. And then I would have got it, because it was hot. You know what I mean? It was like extremely, extremely hot, and it took my body time.
I do know what you're talking about. Back in 2016, my husband and I went to Thailand.
Yes.
It's the same kind of almost oppressive heat that hits you. You get used to it in a few days.
You?
Well, I did.
Took me 15.
Actually funny, one of the things I found that helped me to get used to it was we were staying at a hotel in Thailand, and we decided to take a quick dip in the pool. And when we did that, it kind of like readjusted our body. So like when we were in the pool, all of a sudden the entire humidity goes away at that point.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it feels like all of a sudden it's a normal 70, 80 degrees, whatever,
That's interesting.
rather than having the additional 80% humidity.
Right.
Getting out of there and, you know, putting on your clothes, you do start to sweat again, but it's like,
Yeah.
my body's
Adjusting.
yeah, it's starting to figure it out.
I didn't have that water experience other than the shower.
Like, went in, showered, and then I started sweating again. And I was like, oh. So,
I was like, I think the shower is making it worse, because I remember I literally got there, then we went to her house, and I was like, I need the shower. It was only a 15-20 minute ride from the airport, and I was like, I need the shower.
were you staying with her and her fiance at the time?
Yeah, I was staying with them. They had a apartment that they purchased, and I thought it was very interesting because the government allows you, and she wanted me to study it more, and I'm still going to go back and study that process, but the government allows you to pull out from your Social Security for the purpose of purchasing a home. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about that. I was just like, what? Like, just think about all the people that worked, even if you had like a minimum wage job or $15 an hour, and you were able to pull out of your Social Security for the purpose of a home. Just think how much more value that would be for individuals. I'm like, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's sustainable, especially for people who are in a fixed income. All of a sudden, instead of a monthly rent, they can just pay your once a year property taxes or something.
Yes.
Like that. So
I thought that was very fascinating, but you know, and they have a mortgage for you. Well, it's like you purchase it, but you only can have it for 99 years. It's not life.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought that was
that in Mexico too. So.
Oh yeah, I thought that was a little interesting, because if you like, you're passing it down, but you know, you only got like a 99-year max on it, which is fine, and I get that. But yeah, we stayed in her house. I had my own room. I had air conditioning in the room. It was on all the time. And they never turned their air on. You didn't need to, when you wash, they had a washing machine, but they didn't need a dryer, of course, because you just put it outside and things are dry within like 10 minutes.
Yeah, seriously.
They did have a heater on the water in the bathroom for me to take a shower, and I'm like, I don't need that.
But it's under 1,000 degrees. Are you sure it's not too good? Fine.
Yeah. So, but it was interesting, but I did stay with her, and that helped a lot, you know, because the plane ride over for that business class, even though it was through my friend, it's still a significant amount of money. And that really helped. It definitely put a lot of funds in my pocket so I can do other things.
That's the one thing I will say, if I can stop us for just 1 second. For my students, you may find that there's a time where, like, if you're traveling domestically, you might be okay with just a short flight, just doing economy or whatever coach would be for that specific flight. But when you're traveling 8 hours plus, you know, especially like what Nurah's saying here, you know, traveling 19, 24 hours, 7 hours in some cases, depending upon the flights that you're doing, it might be advantageous for you to consider an upgrade. Yeah, of course it's going to cost a little more, but for you to have the ability to stretch out, recline a little bit, more so than the coach seats, it is really, you should consider the investment. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say you have to do it, but it's one of those things that you really should weigh the pros and the cons of something like that. Because like Nurah was suggesting, if you have a clotting disease, if you have something where maybe you have back problems, maybe you have something that you just need to get up and walk around a lot, and the coach location doesn't suit you best. If that's the case, then guess what? Maybe considering a business class might be advantageous, and it may not be a huge difference in the price either between economy and business.
And you know, sometimes it's good to even get a coach, because when I was going to, it's 10 hours from New York to, well, like 9.5 hours really, from New York to Ghana, right?
Yeah.
And so the reason why I always get coach when I do that, I always upgrade because There's always one or two seats that are available. I looked out one time, but the last time it was $800, and typically those seats go for $5,000.
Yeah.
So I only paid like $2,000. I saved like $3,000, and it was a full bed that goes. So that's another way that if you want a chance, that's another way you could do it.
Absolutely, and it does give you the opportunity to kind of, you got to realize that you're on vacation. This isn't like your daily time. You don't exactly fly to Singapore every day. So, I mean, or Ghana in that particular case. It's an opportunity for you to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I can pamper myself a little bit. Maybe I can pamper myself a little bit more than normal.
Yes.
And again, for my students, pro tip here: if you don't have frequent flyer on a specific air carrier, get it. Absolutely get it, because you will use those perks. They rack up so quickly when you travel a lot.
Yeah.
I have mine through United Miles Plus, and I am able to travel the world over because of that, very inexpensively, and get those upgrades into either business or first class very easily.
That's right.
So it definitely helps out. So, okay, so for purposes of accommodations, while you're in Singapore, you're staying with your friend and her fiance at the time, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Now, how long are you going to be in Singapore for?
For about 15 days.
Okay. So over the course of this 15 days, let's have you share some of the itinerary. Maybe just like 3 specific things that you did while you were in Singapore that really, you can recall on this.
Well, I remember us going to the gardens, and I love that. So they have like these rays. I forgot what they call it, but every time you see a picture of Singapore, they always show those tall.
They look like trees almost.
Yes. Oh my God. Oh, it's a must for everyone. Yes, I was a tourist. It's a must see. It is so beautiful. It was a little scary going up, but it's worth overcoming my fear of like this height, but once I got up there with so many different people, we all were just sharing an experience and talking. It was a lot of Singapore is a huge tourist destination from folks around the world. So, I met this cool, wonderful lady. We was taking pictures together. I made a friend. And it's just to see, you can really see the city. I mean, it's super beautiful. It's just super beautiful. That was one. And then another one was a night safari through the zoo. That's a must see. I mean, you can see animals sometimes you can't see animals, but the light show and all the experience together was just amazing. And then for me, I had a day where I just discovered Singapore on my own. And I needed that. Like I needed to, and she was like, no, we can take you here. And it wasn't some place where I felt like I couldn't go and wouldn't be safe. Right. So I got on the bus. I didn't get help from her. I learned how to figure out the bus. She knew that I like fruit. So I was like, tell me what a fruit market is. It was a fruit market was like, I'm thinking it was going to be a little like stand area or a couple of places. No, it was just as big as the airport. It was beautiful. Like, what? But it was so amazing. It was different like shops, and I'm like, this is the Singapore that I wanted. Like, I wanted to go where everyone was going who lived here versus the tourists. Like, I did all the tourist things, but I like to explore the culture, how you live, how you eat, how you work. And I was able to see that side of Singapore. And I was connecting with people. And you know what? Of course, they knew I was a foreigner, and they loved it. People were asking to take my picture. It's like, okay.
You're like
I'm Beyonce cousin. No, I'm just kidding. But it was just like, they were very excited to see, someone from America come over. And they were I love the fact that they were open with their questions. They were very inquisitive, and I had braids in my hair, and they were asking me about the braids, how long it took. They were just really genuinely like excited to connect with someone that was different from them, And I had a lot of stares, and I would smile and wave back, and people would smile and wave back. I thought it was a very loving, inviting, friendly space. And they all, at every place that I went, they were teachable. There were teachable moments for me. Like, people didn't like, oh my God, and people struggle because they do speak Chinese there a lot, but a lot of people spoke English. So
Yes.
I felt like I can navigate. So, I would ask, oh, how do you say this in Chinese? And they would help out with that. And so it was it was an amazing experience.
Yeah. Two of the biggest languages spoken in Singapore are, of course, English, which really a lot of people are kind of surprised about, and then Mandarin Chinese specific.
Yep.
And in addition to Malay, and there's a couple of other ones that are out there. Two of the biggest ones that are done in that area. I was doing a little bit of research before we were talking about to see a little bit more about Singapore, and it is one of the safest countries in the world.
Very safe.
One of the reasons for that is because, again, they also there's a pro and con about this, and we'll talk a little bit more about this too. But it is a pretty strict country as far as they have a lot of rules. But it does create an environment as part of that, which is a very safe environment to be from.
Very safe.
Yeah. Do you remember any of the fruits that you picked up there? Anything like rambutan or durian or
the durian? Oh my God, that's like the biggest thing that they love is that durian fruit.
Oh gosh,
it stinks.
It is horrible smell.
and my girlfriend was trying to give me because she know I eat a lot, and I will explore it. But I was like, girl, I don't eat chitlins because they stink. So I ain't about to eat this fruit. And, I did try it, and I didn't like the taste.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I'm like, I did it. I tried it, and I'm like, it's disgusting. It smells and tastes disgusting. But I'm not there. Mind you, I was 230 pounds at the time. I had a huge sugar addiction and on steroids, so my taste was all about sugar. But I did love the
Did
they call it?
Or
Dragon
fruit.
Dragon.
Yeah. I love dragon.
It was like a mix of kiwi and
what a great way to describe it.
It was like a mix of kiwi and like what they call papaya to me. It had given a papaya mango-y taste, but definitely kiwi really stuck out. And I would eat dragon fruit all day.
I love dragon fruit. For my students that are out there who have never tried dragon fruit before, it's interesting because it almost looks like an artichoke in the way but it's purple.
Yes.
And so you peel it, and on the inside, it's like a whitey flesh with like little black seeds all throughout.
Yes.
And so in that aspect, it is very much like a kiwi, and it tastes very sweet. I love it. I kind of cut it like an apple. It's like it's very cool. It's very shareable. It tastes sweet. It's lovely. So
passion fruit. That's what it is.
Very good.
Passion fruit.
Yeah.
And you know what? Some of the dragon fruits are red inside too. They are purple. So you get, I didn't even know that until I went there. There's like a different variety. Oh my God. And the red ones are even sweeter. They both sweet.
Nice.
Yeah. And then it was this other little thing. I do forget what it is. It's like, if it's kind of hairy on the outside, but when you open it, it's like a grape in the inside or something.
Okay. I think that's the rambutan.
Maybe that was good too.
Yeah. Rambutan is something we don't really see a lot of here in the United States. It's kind of like almost a brownish or purplish on the outside, and then you open it up, and like you were saying, it's kind of like almost hairy, like a routine or something like that.
Yeah.
Open it up, and it's kind of like on the inside, it's like almost like a grape or something like that. It's cool.
And also the what's that, lychee fruit? That was good too. I love that. And I love the jackfruit. They had jackfruit there. I love that. And of course, the coconut. I mean, they were like, this girl is addicted to coconuts. Every time there was a coconut stand, and now they're so caring. Like, they knew I was very passionate about certain things, and they would make sure that when we were on our excursions that we stopped and got coconut and dragon fruit. They were like, Nurah loves those. And they were just really catered. I just thought that was so amazing that those are the little things that I think is so amazing about people, you know, especially when you're traveling. It's like they're so in tune to serving you, the guests, you know, and it seems like that was the energy, even with people I did not know. You know, it was all about like, how can I help you? How can I serve you? And it was a genuine feel of like, I sincerely want to help you.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I have a question on the cultural aspects of Singapore specifically.
Okay.
And actually, since we're on the same topic, talking about both Singapore and Malaysia, both are heavily Muslim countries or conservative countries in terms of that. Did you happen while you were there to see people that kind of shook that norm? Like, did you see people that were not like maybe like dressed inappropriately, like walking around in like things that would not be appropriate for a conservative location?
Yeah.
People mostly subdued.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you had the yin and the yang in a sense, you know, there's a balance. Like you never saw anybody dressed like they would here, but you had people with shorts on, like short shorts. You had people, you know, who were fully covered in the Muslim wear, you know, and it's so interesting because it was like, oh, these are Asian Muslims. For me, it was just like, this was so cool, you know, and I come from a Muslim family, and to say assalamu alaikum, you know, to them, they're like, oh, you know, like your sister, you know. So it was like, I'm like, no, I ain't religious, but I do know assalamu alaikum. And it was just like, okay, this genuine connection now.
Yeah.
But you saw people, even though it's a strict country, I think even with Malaysia, I did not always see the women cover their hair, but I did not see them as lax in their dress as it is in Singapore. Because Singapore, even though it's a heavily Muslim country, I saw Malaysia being a bit more stricter in terms of their dress and things like that. So much with the women, or it could have been just my perception.
Yeah.
But I saw people wear clothes like they would wear here, and nobody blinked an eye, you know?
You know, it's funny that you make mention of that interaction that you've had, because I had a similar thing happen in Thailand, where I saw these young kids who were aspiring monks, and they were kind of like looking at me like they were confused. And I was like, I had to take a step back for a moment and think to myself, we were actually nearby a mall, and they were just like staring at me. And I think it was more of an inquisitive thing. And I thought to myself, okay, well, I can't speak the language, but what I can do is I can say namaste to them. And when I did that, they were like, oh yeah. they were like, hey. And so sometimes breaking that cultural boundary and being able to have those moments where you're connecting with someone from another culture, even if you can't necessarily speak the language, it's really a moment that you're sharing with someone else, and it's so.
I got them goosebumps.
but you had, I mean, that same situation. You have these wonderful interactions with people from all over the globe, and sometimes for my friends and colleagues that have lived here in the United States and don't really travel extensively, they don't really understand. Well, it's like, wouldn't you feel like unsafe, or wouldn't you feel bad, you know, or how, like you can't speak the language, or do you feel out of place? No, I think it's one of the things that you just, once you get into a culture, and believe me when I say this, people, when you're visiting their country, in a lot of cases, they do want to help. They want to be a good host. Yeah. I remember a few years ago when I was traveling to Amsterdam and to Holland in general, but specifically in Amsterdam, there was a point where I was just out in Amsterdam, traveling around the canals, just observing stuff. And I guess at one point I looked around because I thought maybe I had lost something. And people started approaching me, like a couple of people saying, are you lost? Is there something I can do to help?
Yes.
So you give off a general vibe that people are inviting, and they want to be able to help. They want to be able to be good hosts in their countries. So don't assume that every interaction that you're going to have is bad. You should, of course, be safe and
absolutely,
you know, obviously guard your valuables, but still present a smile, be nice, be cordial. You're visiting someone else's country. Don't be
right.
Don't be dumb. Don't be dumb. Yeah.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, because in going to some of the other countries I've traveled to, you know, and heard some of the feedback from the locals, you know, it's like sometimes, and I don't know, this is just, you know, from what I'm hearing, sometimes we as Americans can be a bit, you know, uppity and our thing, because we, you know, we have this particular air about ourselves. But I believe if we travel with a humble heart and travel with the mindset and the intentions as a student, right? Because see, I'm on professional travel for a reason, because I'm a student of travel. And it's like, if we become that student of travel, and I love this platform that you've created, Scott, because this is what we need, you know, especially that travel etiquette, you know. And just because we do come from America, we are allotted certain level of privilege, but we also have to respect and adapt to another culture. It's kind of like, I'm not going to come into your house rearranging it without your permission. Exactly. And that's the same type of understanding that I have when I travel. I know nothing, you know, and I have that mentality. Even if I don't care if I research a million things about this country before I go, I still go with the heart that I know nothing. And I speak to them in a way, and I communicate to them in a way, even though I might know a lot and they're telling me stuff I already know, I still keep that humble energy. Like, thank you. I'm so appreciative, you know, and I'm always learning more. So I might know the basis, but they're giving me that firsthand experience. And so that's the mentality I kind of travel with all the time.
I want to follow up on that in just a second, but let's talk then. I'm assuming that you didn't have any pre-planned excursions as part of this process. It was more about your friends kind of just walked you through the itinerary, and you kind of did your own thing on that one day where you went off in the market.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So then let's talk really quick. I know your next journey after this was on to Malaysia and then to their honeymoon, because this was all about, and I don't even think we talked about this during this whole time. This was about their wedding. This was about actually attending their wedding.
Yeah, this was actually attending their wedding, and it's nothing like I've seen before. So it wasn't like an aisle walking or anything like that. So I have to say that her father is an atheist and her mom's a Buddhist. Mm-hmm. So, and when I met her, she had an atheist, you know, philosophy as well. And mind you, you know, here the Muslim girl, you know, best friends with the atheist. And, you know, it was just this, oh my God, first of all, I don't know. Foreign people, I'm so mesmerized, because when I'm thinking we're doing stuff up here in the US, and then I go to these foreign receptions and ceremonies and things like that. I mean, it was a 7-course meal. They had like the best of the best foods. It was in this beautiful, it seemed like it was gold sparkled everywhere around, you know, and I got a chance to meet a lot of her family. And she always talked about this little Black girl in America called Nurah.
Celebrity.
It was fascinating to them. I think so. And it was, you know, it was just, it's a culture, because, you know, they don't really interact with Black people that much. I saw a few Blacks there from Africa, you know, maybe a little sprinkle here and there, but no. So it was really fascinating. And they're like, you have this like best friend. So I was like, I actually was taken a little bit away from her wedding. I was like, hold on, we're here for my girls too. But, you know, it was just so amazing.
I have a question about the wedding itself. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the dress that she wore at the wedding?
It was traditional. It was a traditional Chinese dress. It was white with gold threading.
Okay.
I remember that. And then she was a size -5. I said, girl, where are you? I was like, I blew up and you went down. Come on now. Cause yeah. I mean, she knew that I was her maid of honor. So they don't have like you walk down a traditional aisle. So you have this, we have like and I don't know if this was just unique to them, but we had a table where it was just all her girls, all her close bridesmaids, and I was the maid of honor. But literally I was 230 pounds and I could not fit anything there, like nothing, I couldn't even wear a formal dress because I never been overweight, and I didn't even know how to dress. So I wore like I think I had a gold belt and I had a shirt that keep me like from not sweating, and pants. And I was like, "Are you okay with this?" And she was like, "You're here. That's what matters."
Aww.
And so, yeah, but she just was beautiful. Oh, she had the makeup, and she's already a beautiful person to begin with, but she had the makeup, the dress, her husband had his suit on, his wedding suit, and he had a traditional, European suit, but it was just like, it was cut, tailored just right. They looked good. They looked really good. I was just so amazed.
Now, after this, you went to Malaysia for their honeymoon. How long were you in Malaysia for?
We were in Malaysia for about, I think I want to say 10 days.
Okay. So for the most part, you were gone from Detroit for about a month.
Yep.
Right?
I sure was. Yep.
And you remember what the flight was like going back to Detroit?
Oh yeah, it was long. It was actually a little longer, and I actually kind of like zonked out a little bit because there was a heavy traffic. And I think my flight back, I had to go to New York before I went to Detroit. Oh, and it was too much traffic. And so we couldn't land. So we had to taxi for additional 4 hours in the air. And Nurah was going bonkers. I understand what people were saying about, they was like, they had to give me something to calm me down. I was like getting out of the seat, like, it was horrible for me going back. I'm so sorry. But I will say we left on Friday and we arrived on Friday. Okay. And so we celebrated a couple's wedding anniversary twice. So that was pretty amazing.
Oh, so that works out pretty nice though.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
Okay, so let's talk about post-vacation thoughts. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You went to this wonderful experience. What are the pros of a first-time person going to Singapore? What would you want a student to know about?
Just the safety, I would want them to know how safe a place is for them to explore, that they can even go by themselves. This is not one of those trips where you definitely need a travel buddy. If you want one, it's good, but it's not required. Some places I would just say, you might want to go somebody to go with you. But this place, no, you don't need a travel buddy. You don't need to spend a ton of money because even staying at the hotels were not even expensive. It was just, it's something you can probably do with like, honestly, $1,000, maybe $1,500, and, just, another pro about it is just, connect with the people, ask questions. Like a lot of times they'll come up to you, but don't be afraid to explore and, tap somebody on the shoulder and ask a question about this direction or whatever. And they're probably going to give you a history rundown, but that's how so connected the people are there. And that was through my experience. To be honest with you, my husband and I are definitely planning in the future to move to Singapore.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yes, he definitely, it's something that he always, and my girlfriend has been trying to get me to move over there for years, and she, I told her about a few months ago that that's one of the locations he wants to move to in about 5 years. So she's really like, come.
Now, really quickly, because we're going to have to wrap this up soon. Some things to be aware of. I know from news reports and various different people I've spoken with, Malaysia is a pretty strict country in terms of the laws. So like you said previously, and I think this goes to both the statement I said about don't be stupid,
yep,
but also what you had said about I'm trying to remember what you had said. Oh gosh, I'm losing my train of thought here. I apologize.
No, it's fine.
About just, but it really boils down to, you were saying if you're in someone else's house, you're not going to rearrange the furniture and stuff like that.
Yes.
They have a lot of laws and rules there. I mean, three things that came right off the top of my head that I was thinking about. There was that news report that was in, I want to say it was either 1980s or 1990s, about a kid who had spray painted.
Yep.
He was over there with his parents, and he spray
It was
painted.
in the 90s. Yep.
And he was caned as part of that process. And caned where they like actually hit this kid with a bamboo stick several times over as a punishment.
Mm-hmm.
And while that seems a little bit barbaric from our standards, it's their society, and he broke their laws.
Exactly.
So things like that are illegal, obviously. They take
drugs
seriously.
Drugs.
Seriously. But even things like chewing gum, spitting on the sidewalk, things like that.
I was chewing gum though, but I didn't spit it out on the sidewalk because I probably would have went to jail.
Very, very
but they do make fun of their laws too.
Okay.
So they're very strict, and even though they might be laws, some things are laws, but if you do them, it's not like somebody's gonna grab you up. But the spray painting, you're gonna be caned. You know, if you're chewing gum, they'll probably let it slide. But if you spit it out and someone sees you, you could probably go to jail.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why the place is probably clean. Because they put these laws in place. Because they understand, hey, if 5 million people are spitting out gum and doing littering, guess what? So they take that very seriously. But those are definitely things to be aware of the laws and abide by them. Even though you may think that they're not significant, they are for that country.
But in the same aspect, like you were saying, as far as the pros go, the safety factor there is phenomenal. So you don't see a lot of crime. You don't see a lot of pickpocketing. You don't see a lot of, assaults or anything like that. That's not, of all the countries that you go to, is one of those places that is probably one of the safest in the world.
It is. And it's honestly, it's like, I compare Singapore, the New York of Asia. Singapore is the New York of Asia, but clean.
Very nice. And then finally, any value adds, cost savings, or best practices that you would like to share with my students?
Just the main one I talked about earlier is like the upgrade. You can kind of like hack the system a little bit, get an economy. A lot of people don't know about that. They don't think about it in planning, but you might want to get an economy and then upgrade on the back end, because typically those are not sold at the normal price, and you can get it for a better price. Also, they have the aggregators or whatever. I would look at those as well, especially if you don't travel a lot, then you have the luxury of maybe looking at a different airline versus sticking to one airline if you don't travel often. But for those who do travel, it would be good to have an airline where you can rack up those miles.
Because it really does benefit you in the long term.
It does.
All right. Well, Nurah, thank you again for being with us. For the third time, we're looking continuously to follow your travels. So again, if you're traveling in the future, please share your thoughts with us. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Likewise. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And if people wanted to contact you, they can find you on your website, motherlandorganics.com. Is that correct?
Yes, you can get that bug repellent, the plant-based herbal bug repellent that I use to keep those mosquitoes away.
And that's Motherland Organics with an S at the end of that.
That's correct.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nurah.
Thank you.
Again, for my students that are out there that do have additional questions or want to follow up, send everything to me. You can send it to scott@theprofessortravel.com. If it's something specific about Singapore, I'll send it over to Nurah so she can help you to maybe get a little bit more information on that. But if you're watching this on YouTube, please feel free to click the bell icon above you in order to be notified when new videos are released. If you haven't already done so, please hit the subscribe button. If you like this content and you enjoy it, please give us a thumbs up. And if you're listening to us on one of the podcasting formats, by all means, please rate us. We really do appreciate it. But until the next time, make every one of your days a travel adventure. Thanks, everybody. Have a great
Bye.
Bye now.